John's a big Kate Spade fan.
John's a big Kate Spade fan.
Yeah. Yeah.
David Spade's sister.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
Is it really?
Absolutely.
Okay, I would have completely called bullshit on that.
No, that's she passed away a few years ago, but yeah, David Spade's sister.
I did not know that. Learned something.
I knew a
today.
Derek Shovel one time. That
Ready?
was...
Are we good? Okay. Okay, hey everybody! It is time for Wine Crush. We are again down here in beautiful McMinnville. It is actually sun shining. Thanks, guys, for bringing in the sun today.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, no rain right now. So this could be a wild ride today because we have wrangled Drew Herman's to come in with Tress Burns today from Alexana, and we just never know what's going to happen. So. He says he's on his best behavior. He's a method podcaster.
Let's do it live.
Yeah. So anyhow, welcome guys. Let's talk about Alexana and everything in between. And thanks for coming in.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. So Tress is not new to the show. He's been here once before in our very abbreviated short version that we used to do in Portland. So we get to dive a little bit further into your story this time and see kind of where the wine came from, because I've actually known you since the beginning of my wine journey, because you were at Britton Vineyards when I was going through my Linfield class.
How long ago was that summer that we spent together?
Oh God, 2017.
Okay, so it's been
Maybe?
a while. Yeah,
So 8 plus years probably.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah,
Forgettable. That's what
did you say forgettable?
Could have been last week. Could have been 8 years ago. I have no sense of time anymore.
I
so,
still have
yeah.
the wine that we blended and
you
I don't
do? Oh,
know if
nice.
it's any good because I don't know. I don't know if it's any good, and I blended it, so it could be absolute trash. Other than the base wine was really good because you and Robert had made the wine. So.
Well, and we did our best to get it safely in a bottle, but it's tough when you're making a couple bottles. Who knows?
Yeah.
I would recommend.
I think we had 2, and I drank one bottle
Yeah.
right away, and it was actually pretty delicious. I was impressed
Nice.
by myself. But now 8 years later, I don't know. It might just be a trophy that just sits on the desk.
Yeah, there's value in that too, right?
I
But I
guess.
still think that wine would have the bones to go the distance. So
Yeah.
yeah,
It's all about the base.
yeah.
I think one of the vineyards was a Shea Vineyard wine. So I don't
Yeah,
know.
we had that in the cellar.
Yeah.
We had great vineyards in that cellar,
Yeah.
right? So, and we made a lot of high acid wines out of the McMinnville AVA. So I would think that wine would go forever, basically, because Robert's wine certainly he needs about 10 years in bottle before those wines really start to show.
Yeah, those are big boys.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what I learned about the Syrah the first time I met Robert was he's like, this is young, don't judge it. And I'm like, well, I don't know anything about anything. So, and that, it was very mind-blowing.
Yeah, usually 2 years in bottle before we would even consider showing it to people because it just needed to settle down a little bit.
Yeah. So I don't know where you started before Britton's.
Yeah.
But that's where I picked you up as far as like a friend and like aware of you, I
Yeah.
guess. Yeah. So where did your wine journey start?
So, it kind of starts in Oregon from the beginning. I grew up here. I grew up on the Oregon coast in a tiny little town called Gold Beach.
I was just there.
Yeah,
not
so
too long
Rogue
ago.
River, middle of nowhere. I couldn't wait to get out, and of course now I look back and realize that I sort of grew up in paradise. But I left for a long time. I went to college in Virginia. Eventually moved up to New York City. Worked there for 5 years. Spent 6 years in the Bay Area. So I was gone about 15 years before I came back to Oregon, and that's when I really started to seriously consider wine and. Took classes at Oregon State and eventually got a master's degree in fermentation and came up to McMinnville in 2011. So I've been up here a while now, which is kind of wild to think about.
It goes really fast.
It does, yeah.
It's kind of seems like a whirlwind of all things.
Yeah.
When you were on your travels through all, the Virginias and East Coast and stuff, was wine part of what you were doing over there? Were you working in restaurants? Was it part of your life growing up on any level, or did you just kind of get a bug once you got back here?
I knew wine was pretty important as a kid just because my parents were foodies. They would usually do like an annual trip to California to buy wine from small producers in the Napa area. So I knew there was something special about it, that it was a really important part of eating a meal. Certainly got to try it a lot as a kid, but I went to an old Southern university, so I was in Virginia seeing these vineyards pop up around, and I was just slugging as much bourbon and beer as I could. So I wasn't paying attention to wine. That's what we do.
That's what a college student does.
And then I moved up to New York City and drank a lot of cocktails. Still didn't really have wine on my radar, and it wasn't until I got to San Francisco that I started to, do those weekend trips and start to sort of explore the region around us and realized like, oh, wine's pretty cool, you know? So it was a little while, you know, my late 20s really before I started to think about it seriously. Of course, then I came up here and I sort of approached it from like a scientific angle, right? That's when I started to learn more about how it's made and to understand its sort of fundamental chemistry. And so that was a multi-year education. And then that's one part of it. To understand the science of wine is something, but you have to understand the sort of practical side of winemaking as well. And so I came up here in 2011, was making $12.50 an hour as an intern and just jumped from there.
It seems like I mean, if you have it in you and you really are interested in it, it seems like a really natural, like, progression from being an intern, really getting the bug, and then it's like becomes like the focus.
Yeah, and I think that there's certain indicators for success, right? So I think even having a sort of curiosity about cooking, you know, I don't know. Do you know any winemakers that aren't cooks or that don't enjoy like cooking really nice food? I mean, I can't think of a single person.
I know a couple. Yeah, they're big gamers and they eat a lot of frozen pizzas, but they.
I mean, you know, everything, and you know, you have to have a well-rounded diet. It's not.
Yeah, no, it's the winemaker from what are they called? Harlan, and then Beauferrer, and just kidding.
Yeah.
He'll be here next week.
Going after the big fish.
I saw a Taco Bell in Portugal, and I thought, like, oh, that's kind of cool. Taco Bell, like, I love Taco Bell, right? Yeah. So, you know, everything. You'd sort of a little bit of everything, but I think like cooking is one. I do think that scientific mindset, and then you have to sort of see if it's what you want. You know, there's sort of how you think the wine industry is going to be, and then there's the reality of the wine industry, right? I think we always sort of imagine ourselves sitting in the vineyard, swirling wine in the glass, and you know, clinking and having a good time. And we get to do that about 5 minutes a year or so.
I think once you realize you have a palate, it's like this creative muscle that you kind of apply everywhere else in life. Like people that are winemakers like a lot of flavors that most people would never even, you know, go after.
Yeah, and that's a thing you practice, right? It's something you practice by tasting and by doing and seeing those results. You know, I've met winemakers who don't drink wine outside of work, which I find kind of odd. I'm always looking for inspiration outside of our winery. So when I go home, I don't usually drink Oregon Pinot. I'm drinking old world wines because I want to find things that make me more curious about winemaking. But there are, you know, some people don't do that. They just have a style and they sort of exist in that sort of lens. But I'm always sort of chasing what can we do new or different. So that's kind of, and maybe that's a sort of scientific mindset of like, you know, iterate, experiment, improve, you know, and do that every year. You get one shot to do that every year, right? We have one vintage every year. We have this incredibly complex vineyard. So we slice and dice it so many ways in a small tank so that we can do all these different types of fermentations and experiments, get a result, you know, sort of understand what is giving us something we like, and then move on and try something else the next year. So it's a constantly iterative process.
It's always interesting to me when I meet winemakers that don't drink at all. I'm like, how's it that you don't drink at all? You're a winemaker. You have to taste it, right? Like, oh, we just spit a lot. And I'm like, oh.
Well, yeah, and certainly at work, you know, we just finished a few weeks of tasting every barrel in the cellar. We had some days where we tasted 100 barrels.
That's so exhausting.
It's exhausting. It's actually my least favorite time of year. Because it is exhausting, you know, and you're trying to find sort of the minute differences between these barrels. They're young, raw wines, so they're just a lot to drink anyways. And then, yes, you are spitting it, but you're absorbing a little bit every time. So after about 100 barrels, that's about 2 hours of tasting, you do sort of just drag yourself out of that room. So, you know, it's just, you know,
there's like somebody listening to porta potties right now, or like cleaning porta potties, like listening to this podcast, and they're just like, fuck you guys.
Yeah, exactly. No, and people,
your day's rough.
People are always like, oh, you're complaining about being paid to taste wine. Oh, you know, but like, it is a challenging part of the process because ultimately I think part of it is just the weight of what you're accomplishing by doing that. Right. Again, you know, you have one vintage, you get one shot a year to make the wine. You've got one shot to get those blends right, get them in the bottle, and that you're going to constantly wonder, you know, because when it comes down to it, when we look at our final blends, you know, we're looking at sometimes differences, you know, that are just like 0.5% here, 2% there, that kind of thing. Nobody's ever going to see that side by side, but you always think about that side by side as a winemaker, and you're like, oh man, I went with, this version, but maybe if I'd gone with that one, it would age better, or, sort of change somehow differently in the bottle. So you always kind of second guess yourself, as a winemaker. But once it's blended and in bottle, it's locked in, right? So you got to, at some point, just sort of accept your final decision.
Own it and love it. Yeah.
So, there is this sort of drudgery of like, oh, we have to taste more wine today, but also the excitement of like, this is our chance to show what we did. So 2024 right now, we're sitting on a wonderful vintage. I'm sure everybody you've talked to this year has been incredibly happy about what they're sitting on in their cellar. We just had a phenomenal vintage, right? So yeah, it's kind of drudgery to get through that and taste all those barrels, but also like we're putting together our blends, right? We're putting together what we think represents the best of what we did in 2024. So there's an excitement around that too. It's like, okay, this is how well we can do, and we absolutely knocked it out of the park this year.
I would assume that it'd be really exciting, and there'd be a lot of pride that comes with that as well. I mean, yeah, there's the exhaustion, there's the whole Mother Nature kind of does her thing, and as much as, Drew and team and whatever can kind of help the vineyard along and do its best, there's only so much you can do because it's just going to kind of write its own story for the year.
Yeah, it's a funny thing, right? I think as winemakers, the one thing we always want in all aspects is control, and that you have less control over some of these things than you think. In other areas, you have to exert a lot of control. So you have to find a way to sort of feel that balance a little bit, I think. But yeah, it's, again, it's a team effort. So yes, I'm a winemaker, but I'm working with a team, right? It's an us. When we're sitting and tasting, it's multiple people in the room. These blends are being made by a committee and not just one person. And because throughout the course of this wine's life, really about 2 years to go from the decisions that start to be made in the vineyard in January through the growing season, through harvest, year in barrel, finally getting it in a bottle. A whole host of people have put work into this wine to get it there. And when it happens, when we get to that point where we finally get to open that bottle and think about all those decisions we made to get to that point, to have this wine in the glass, I think it's important to, one, celebrate that, and to remember the people that did this together, and then, and then think like, did we kill it? Did we need to, what do we need to work on next year?
I mean, there's always improvement, right? I don't think anybody ever thinks what they do is perfect, but it can get pretty, except for Drew.
Yeah. Well, you have to find that moment of enjoyment, right? Otherwise, you're stuck in the kind of Jiro dreams of sushi thing where you're chasing a perfect ideal that you're never going to accomplish. So you will only be disappointed in yourself the whole time.
Kaizen, that philosophy, is that what it is?
Yeah, it's just like, and it's like, that's great. Yeah, I mean, the pursuit of perfection, yes, but like,
it is in our company core values, the pursuit of excellence.
But excellence is different than perfection, right?
Yeah, but if you love something, let it go at the same time, right?
I always think about it like in terms of like, think about it in terms
so philosophical over here on the couch.
Think about it in terms of, well, hey, I mean, we're just improvising, right? But think of it in terms of like musicianship, right? So like Steve Vai is perfection, and Dave Matthews is excellence. No, who would be excellence?
Would it be like who does like the German metal Christmas albums?
Yeah, I mean those are all perfection, right?
Mannheim Steamroller.
Yeah, that's perfection. It's like technically correct.
Scalloped frets on their
It's incredibly
guitars.
complicated. It's technically correct, and it's kind of not as interesting as somebody who does a better job of improving, who might flub a note here or there.
Yeah, like Bob Dylan.
Exactly. That's excellence, right?
Way better.
He's a perfect.
You guys have gone like full spectrum on every.
I mean, Bob Dylan
Bob
Dylan's a perfect singer. He has a perfect voice, a classically trained opera singer. That operatic voice that he has, no grizzle whatsoever, and that's perfection, right?
It's perfection. Italian wines are like that, right?
Yeah,
like Italian wines they're more Bob Dylan-esque sometimes.
Absolutely,
like rough but beautiful, and it's like those. That's pretty much all I drink outside of Oregon Pinot.
Yeah, and probably extending on this idea, like there's a lot of New World wines that are perfect and are perfectly clean view in nearly the same way that an Italian wine that may have like slightly elevated volatility, probably a touch of Brett, a little bit of the Old World.
Yeah, Montessori-like, whereas the New World ones are more like Utah private school.
There we go.
Utah private school.
Yeah. It's a vibe.
It's a vibe. Big Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
Oh, Lord. So I'm interested in like your road from like where you started and all the different stops that you've made and what you've picked up and learned from all of them. Because like and I don't know, I'm just making assumptions that what you did at Britain's was much different than you did at White Rose, which is much different, when you're doing it at Alexana.
So, when I came up here in 2011, I had my master's degree. I'd never worked a harvest like commercially before, which I did it completely the wrong way, right? I've invested 3 years of schooling before I got into a winery and did a big harvest. If I hadn't enjoyed winemaking, that would have been a pretty tough discovery after all that investment. I worked at Lemelson Vineyards, so I was an intern with Anthony King, who was a winemaker there at the time, and I learned right away that you can make a lot of money in the wine business. So the intern rate that year was $12 an hour, but because I had a master's degree, Anthony gave me $12.50 an hour.
Yowza!
So so like that was paying off
cash for your first
immediately.
house.
Did you
like
rub
tens
that in
of
people's
dollars?
faces?
Yeah, totally. Oh, you don't have a master's degree? Oh man, well I'm going to Taco Bell tonight, but you probably can't eat. And it was 2011, and I was going to harvest hop and do all those things. It was a really tough time in the wine industry. And after that harvest, Anthony told me, hey, there might be a shot for you to be the assistant winemaker. Why don't you stick around for a bit? So I wasn't going anywhere, because at the time there were a few full-time jobs. Yeah, he was a great mentor. And so I ultimately spent 4 years with Anthony, and I learned a lot. I mean, he is an incredibly thoughtful winemaker. I always say he's the best natural winemaker in the Willamette Valley, but nobody knows that because his wines are so perfectly made. He's a little too scientific, I think, for a lot of folks that are in the natural wine community. But we were completely uninoculated, unfined, unfiltered, organic grapes. We did everything top to bottom, very naturally, and I think made very compelling wines. So 4 years with Anthony. And then I spent 4 years with Robert, so both UC trained, originally California based winemakers who are now in Oregon. So those were my two mentors, had very similar backgrounds. The difference being that Robert's had a few more vintages, right? At this point, he's had 50 vintages under his belt. But that he's still every year, and Drew's seen it because they've presented together in OPC, he's always still looking to learn. He's always still asking that question every summer, what can we do better this year? So that was a great lesson from Robert.
Yeah, he's like open-minded about new things too.
Yeah, it's like how, you're in your mid 70s and you're open-minded. Like if somebody says like, hey, actually I do this thing slightly differently, and here's what I do. And he thinks like, oh, maybe that would work better.
He's open-minded, but he's very much like he's an informed person.
I'm sure if you asked other people in the industry, they'd be like, "Oh, Robert's pretty opinionated," but he's opinionated, but open-minded, and I think that's pretty important, right? Don't shut it off. Don't shift into cruise control. You can do that. I mean, there's plenty of places you can make wine where you don't have to think about it. Just do the same thing every year. That doesn't even seem
Alexana.
Yeah, it doesn't even seem very compelling to me, right? I think I'd just get bored after a while, So we're going to try new things this year we haven't done before, and we're going to show things to our customers we've never produced before because we're trying all these new things.
Well, I think it's exciting when you like travel overseas. Like you were just in Portugal, talk about Italy, whatever. They do things differently over there. There's different grape varieties. There's different techniques. There's different vineyard management. Like I was blown away in Portugal knowing that everything was just one big field blend and they didn't have like sections and blocks and things like, I was used to over here. So I'm sure you're picking things up as well.
It's a good reminder that maybe we can tend to overanalyze or overthink things sometimes, and then I think I call it just sort of the old world, divinity or something, but they can also get away with a lot more than we can. It seems like when we try to do old world things, they go sideways on us really quickly, and then you go to the old world and they're just like, oh yeah, see that 100-year-old wood tank that is just covered in mold, we just put the fruit in there, we don't really pay attention to it for a week, and then eventually it starts to ferment itself and everything's fine. It's like, if I did that, I just think that things could go sideways very quickly on us, and they tend to for some reason. And maybe it's just because we have a clean winery compared to the old world winery that's just absolutely coated in a flora that's like perfectly evolved for 100-year-old cellars, that kind of thing.
Which is an aesthetic people don't appreciate here.
Yeah. We run a very clean winery, so we don't have that flora. Well, we'd like to think we don't have that flora quite as much. So yeah, I think that but that inspires, right? Because I think another part of like what you learn in winemaking is what can you get away with, right? So there are those sort of positive lessons that you have, and there's those negative lessons too that can kind of tell you like, oh, actually you can go that far and you can get to the finish line safely. Maybe I need to rethink, sort of my obsession about this certain process or whatever it is.
It seems like nothing's absolutely true, but often is,
Exactly. Yeah. And, that's the unsaid thing, is that for all of us, old world, new world, there are times when these things are going south, right? Nobody bats 1,000 in winemaking, right? There are things in your cellar that you're like, oh, missed the mark on that one. That'll disappear into a broader blend, or I'll sell it to the lower bottle price down the road.
That used to happen, not anymore. It doesn't happen to you anymore, though.
Yeah, no, I don't have that option anymore. So
now.
I bet 1,000.
Really, really good.
Yeah, but it is. I mean, that is your outlet, right? Like if you take chances, you have to have an outlet for when those chances don't really pay off. Yeah,
a little bit of vinegar down the road. I mean, with the insurance side of it, I hear things and they're like, I don't know what to do with this. Do we turn it into vinegar? Do we do this? Do we that? I'm like, I don't know.
Well, I think in 2020, most of those whiffed chances turned into hand sanitizer.
Yep.
Oh my God. Or there's geniuses like Durant that did like 3,000 gallons of barbecue sauce and just started another label.
That's so much barbecue sauce.
Yeah, the barbecue sauce
is so smart.
good.
It was the right application for the grapes we grew in 2020.
Oh my God. It's great tasting. But it's got that wildfire smoke, you think, but like people forget about what burned in that fire. So it's like Detroit, like
cars on blocks.
Yeah.
And, yeah. So yeah, and then and White Rose was really my first chance to take the reins and really lead the show, and that's when we talked. I just started there, and I was coming in after Jesus had passed, and so we talked a lot about his legacy, and really the 3 years I spent there, I think, was really focused on making sure that we still talked about Jesus, that we kept that story alive, that I made wines in the style that he had really perfected, and that we honored that. I got to work with his younger brother, Dago, who's just wonderful, wonderful human being. So we had a great 3 years, and I also was managing the tasting room, so I learned a lot about the sales side of this business, right? So I, as a production person, we just always assume as long as we make great wines, they'll just sell themselves, but that's not the case, right? The reality is that there are hundreds of wineries here in Oregon, right? We're all competing-ish against each other, and that it's a lot of work to sell wine. And so I really respect the people that work front of house now, because I understand how hard that is, and I didn't before.
I think it's a good perspective. I mean, it just, it is hard to sell anything for that matter, but when you're in production, then you come up to the, whether you go out to the vineyard or you're in the sales, whatever, there's so many different aspects of the wine industry that I think people overlook and they don't realize that are pertinent pieces of the entire puzzle. And it's nice that you get to kind of have seen a good piece and portion of it.
Absolutely. And I think for Drew and I, it means that we understand that we're there to support that side of our business as well. So we spend a lot of time in the tasting room. We talk with a lot of our customers. We do a lot of events. It's partly the reason why we have such a poor work-life balance, is that our jobs require a lot of us, just our main duties, and then there's the events,
the
dinners. And
we both know what it takes to like get a brand like off its feet and dancing, and like it's a lot of work.
And in a way it's a relaunch for us, right? So Alexana has existed for quite some time, right? Our first vintage was 2006, but there was a lot of change that started in 2021. Jeff Lewis came on as our general manager. I came on in 2022, and Drew in 23, and we're changing the fundamental parts of each of our parts of the business. And so the wines have changed. The vibe of the winery is different. I think that a lot of what we're doing now is trying to get the word out, just trying to tell people like, hey, we're doing a lot of cool shit, come and see us.
We are fortunate to have a super stacked team right now. And it's getting more stacked too. And anybody listening that wants to quit their job and work with us, just reach out.
These are your hiring managers right here.
Tressiter B at Tressiter B. There we go. It's no longer Flesh Musket. That was my old.
Who do we want? Let's directly appeal now.
Okay,
but it is right. Put a good team together, and then if it's working, get out there and tell people about it. Right? I mean, let's It's why we're here. It's why we work dinners. It's why we do.
Sales
it's why we
prevention.
hosted. It's like why we hosted the Organic Growers Conference.
Mm-hmm.
It's like we want people to understand that we're thinking about the whole wine business critically. That we have a lot of good ideas. That we want to get good ideas from other people. We want that sharing and collaboration, and that we want to foster that, and that we're here to help.
Yeah, we're doing the hyper collaborative approach rather than competitive.
Yeah.
It's so much better bringing friends with you.
Oh, it makes everything just so much better. Yeah. I mean, it just feels good, and it's more fun for you to be. If you have to be out there, you may as well be hanging with friends.
Yeah,
yeah, and I think that what I've learned in my years in the wine business is, and I'm sure it's the same on the viticulture side, is the people I respect, the winemakers I respect, are the ones who are very open about their process, who are willing to share, who are even willing to sort of think about new ideas, or at least to have that conversation. So again, back to open-mindedness, right? And it would be the same with viticulture. If somebody says, "Oh, I have a secret way of farming, and I can't tell anybody about it," you'd be like,
"Unless you pay me,
yeah,
$300 an hour."
exactly, yeah, I need a retainer and a high hourly. You'd think that like, oh, they're full of it, right?
Or no, I mean, if you don't know any better, then you're just an easy target for those charlatans.
Yeah, and that's the sad thing, right? Is that there are people that come in with more money into the business with more money than common sense, and they talk to somebody who sells them,
a widget.
Their proprietary vineyard management.
I cannot wait
system.
till I'm a consultant and I just get to totally take people's.
Yeah, we're ripping on it, but we all sort of
give
think
me that
like,
job.
Yeah, that's the dream right there. I'm going to sell my proprietary.
I need to come up with
approach.
like a special dirt that you can sprinkle on the vineyard and just package it like 6 ounce.
That's a 7-figure idea right there.
Oh my god, that's genius.
Just know that I was part of this idea.
Yeah,
yeah. It happened here on my comfy couches. So yeah.
Yeah, we'll give you a percentage.
Okay, cool. Okay, let's shift
A dirt
over to
product,
Drew.
We could call it Filthy Mind or something. I don't know. I'm just workshopping live.
Well, this leads us right into Drew. I met Drew, probably 6 or 7 years ago as well. Probably about the same time.
It was in Portland.
It was at Portland because you got me schmammered that day. It was your and Tom's fault.
I was competitively drinking with you.
Yes, and I just got shithoused at.
Where was this?
Was it at the wine bar?
Yeah.
Was it at the wine bar? It was at the old Southeast Wine Collective.
Yeah.
Building.
Yeah.
On Division.
Yeah, we were there just to do some shots with one of the tenants.
Just to do some shots.
Just to do some photo,
okay.
some photo, not like
there's
tequila shots,
another meaning to that
photos.
And then I pulled out a bottle of Malort, and then we just.
I don't remember.
That's when the party goes
I
sideways.
just know I sat in my car for a while because I should not have driven home.
Right.
So yeah, and it was that man's fault, and Tom was not any better.
I let Jesus take the wheel that day.
Yeah. So that was my introduction into Drew. That was truly the introduction into Drew Barrymore's life. So anyhow, Drew, tell us all about you and how you got to kind of where you're at. Because honestly, I don't know this story.
Okay, so I grew up in Oklahoma, very rural on a dirt road, and ended up going to college. And after being in a weird Christian cult for a while, and then I got a degree in zoology and botany, and then I graduated during the recession, which was lame. Because I had a science degree in Oklahoma and graduated during the recession, so there was basically no jobs. Oklahoma's not big on science in the first place, and then at all. And so I didn't know what to do, and then I found out that there was an amazing agricultural opportunity on the West Coast, where you could make thousands of dollars a day, and so I came out here to grow weed. And this was before it was legal, and so it was lucrative. And then
it was merely medicinal.
It was merely medicinal, yeah. And so I did that for a while, and then it went legal. So all the money just went away, which is super lame. And I didn't feel like a pirate anymore, so that appeal was lost. And so
it was just a corporate job at that point.
Yeah, at that point, I might as well be filing paperwork, So. There's no danger in it. I grew up doing rodeo and stuff. I was terrible at it, but I just really liked, to feel something. And
the adrenaline junkie.
Yeah, that was just my thing for a while. But now all I have to do is put on a sad song, and I go there. That feels just as dangerous these
Well,
days.
and spreadsheets. There's spreadsheets.
Yeah, oh, God. Spreadsheets.
So I've got to ask, were you like I cannot imagine that you were in the rough stock. So you weren't like bulldogging and roping. You were probably riding bronc or bull of some sort?
Because I'm small?
Yes.
Yes, you are correct.
Okay. You didn't have a lot of weight to throw
Wait,
around.
What? She just like called me a slight person.
Are there
I'm not
are there like
either.
certain sizes for different rodeo
Yes.
types?
There's it's much funnier to like watch a monkey ride a horse than it is like watch a monkey tackle a horse. So I think I would do that more. I would ride it. Well, I tried to do roping for a while and I was pretty bad at it. I wasn't, but I was good at it if I was on my feet. Just I couldn't ride a horse and do it. And then I tried to like do any of the. Honestly, I was bad at all of it. But I thought it would be really cool and that girls would like me. But then, like I was just so like injured all the time, and that it was just kind of like, what is wrong with this guy?
It's a rough sport.
Yeah,
On any level.
Yeah, it was dumb. But looking back, I probably wouldn't do it again. But I don't know, or maybe I would. I don't know.
I just think about the head trauma.
That was pre-helmet requirements.
Yeah,
vest requirements.
Growing up on the coast, no rodeo, right? But I happened when I was in high school, I did Cycle Oregon, and there was a junior rodeo that they put on at one point, and
Was
just
Cycle
watching,
Oregon?
yeah, wild. It was just like an event that they had during one
Odd.
lunch, and these kids were on these animals, and their heads were just whipping around, and I just thought. It was like turning their brain into soup or something.
Yeah, oh my God. One time my head got trampled and I like remember waking up at like it was a knockoff Waffle House in Durant, Oklahoma. It was called it was the same signage and everything, yellow and black, but it was called like Waffle Palace.
Oh.
And yeah, I don't know. I just remember like waking up there after head trauma and like some guy was like, I was handing cash to a guy who was selling me his chaps and I was like, yeah. It's like the rodeo version of getting roofied, I think, because it was just like getting totally.
Yeah, it's probably like the equivalent of playing like 4 football seasons
Yeah.
a year as a 12-year-old.
Yeah.
I know.
Anyway, I'm very forgiving
This
of my.
explains so much.
Yeah, I have
Yeah.
a severe short-term memory, but it's related to so many different life choices. Anyway, so started farming vegetables, and I did that in Portland for a while, at like Zinger Farms, Sabe Island Organics, and some other places, and I actually loved veggie farming. It was really, really great, but it was hard to make a living on because and I think that's why I found wine appealing is because it was like no matter how good of a carrot you grew, nobody was going to like pay you more for it.
A 99-point carrot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Carrot enthusiast just doesn't exist. They couldn't care at all. Sorry. This was all set up for a carrot joke.
The whole podcast. We were just
The whole
like,
podcast
For a carrot joke.
was for a carrot joke.
Would have never saw
Stuck
that
the
one
landing,
coming.
too.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
wow.
No more vegetable puns. I can't beat that. Okay, let us move on. Okay.
Okay. So vineyards
anyway,
it is.
Anyway, so I wanted to get out, and I was encouraged by my family to like maybe look into wine, and I had like made wine and beer since I was like, in high school even, and like I never thought about doing it as a job. I thought it was just like something that, and so I was intrigued by maybe looking at. So I reached out to a bunch of people, and I was surprised when people reached back out and were like, yeah, we are interested in you. Because I figured the bar to entry was like really high to get in the wine. So yeah, they were like, yeah, we'll take you. And so I picked working for Mike Halleck at Carabella Vineyards because he said that he was looking for somebody to help make wine, farm, and do national sales and run the tasting room. And it was really just me and him and his wife running the business, so it was really cool. My first job in wine, I got to do everything, and then worked for him for a few years. Ended up working in New Zealand at Anisfield for a vintage, and when I came back, I was really interested in making wine more naturally because that's what we had done in New Zealand. It was like 600 tons, and no yeast, very little, if any, sulfuric crush, and it was cool. And I wanted to pursue that. So when I came back, I ended up taking a job as the assistant winemaker and manager for Division Wines, but the manager of like the Southeast Wine Collective, where the restaurant was, where you got shit canned.
Yeah.
And anyway, so I worked with them, and that was really cool because we were working with like, it was something silly, like 28 varietals, or maybe that's how many SKUs we had. And then we had like, the Southeast Wine Collective at one point had like 15 custom crush clients.
There was a whole wall full, because I remember there was like almost like a chart of everybody's name that was in that, and it was such an itty bitty space.
Yeah, it was tiny, but we did 280 tons or something.
That's crazy.
But it was like, oh god, it was absolutely insane. So that's when I learned that's really when I learned how to disassociate entirely from my feelings, was that job. And which is good. That's helps me in marriage and as a father of young children, you know. And I'm just joking.
You have to avoid
I'm listening
the pain.
intently. Yeah. But I'm also identifying because I get it. My children aren't young anymore, but I get it.
Yeah, but that was really cool. And then during 2020, I was like kind of the only employee. And then in 2021, I decided that I kind of like wanted to get back into the vines. Because I miss them, and I really like plants. I've like plants are my favorite thing in the world, and soil, and I never stopped like learning about that stuff. I still read books about it every day, and I procrastinate like that way. Like instead of doing important things, I'm like, I'm studying, you know, to feel good about it. But then I went to J.K. Carrier, and I was his vineyard manager for 2 years, 2 years, yeah. And which is awesome. I loved working with Jim. He's a really cool winemaker. What I really like about Jim is like, I used to think that he was just like frugal, but I realized later that he just has to do everything himself. He like really like has to touch his wines and his vines and like be at the center of it, which is really cool. To see that much involvement. Like he's still like spraying, he's still driving his tractor and pruning himself. He's really slow at pruning, like hilariously slow, but he still does it, which is good. A for effort. But he was really cool to work for, and told me, you know, he was like, you gotta go do something. You're having kids. You need to go make some money for a while, and you'll never get rich working here, which was true. I wouldn't. And so, so then Alexana called me and asked me if I'd like to interview for their job. And I was like, well, Alexana, wow, I'll probably make like $1 million a year, but it's not true. Big old catfish.
Yeah. But everyone thinks that we have the money to pay. So, you know, I'd say about 10% of my work time is just sort of shooing vendors out the door. People love to come and sell us things.
There's an Indian doctor that owns a winery in Napa that invented like a heart shunt. He's like a true billionaire. I think people think that's who owns us.
Oh, yeah. Gotcha.
They get confused. We're just a regular millionaire.
Yep.
Just a regular one.
Yeah.
I don't even know what that
Dr. Ravana is who we're talking about. He's amazing. He started all of these wineries back. The first one, 1996.
97. In St. Helena.
Yeah, he started. He bought little 9-acre property down there, and now it's a really cool world-class wine.
And he worked with experts everywhere, right? Yeah. So when he started in Napa, he started working with Heidi Barrett and Jim Barber, so two preeminent winemaker and viticulturists down there. He came here basically after a conversation with Lynn Penner-Ash, and then had her come on as his first winemaker. And then when he went to Argentina, he enlisted a gentleman named Santiago Achaval. So he's worked with like experts in each of these places, right? He understands that he's the doctor and not the winemaker, and that I think he's loves wine, but also knows that you want to bring experts in to execute it.
Which is why he brought Tress and I in, because we're absolute experts.
Yep. Well, we're trying to convince him of that.
Well, experts.
He's somewhat receptive to our entreaties.
experts, my glass is empty, so that means
Oh, nice.
that
Oh,
we've got
my
to
God.
put something more into. You guys suck.
Oh, you don't even know
So-
what we were drinking before.
I
We
do.
didn't-
It was Pinot Gris.
Did we announce it on the podcast?
No.
No.
You
Well, it
guys-
should just be obvious from the
Yeah.
bottle.
Yeah.
right?
Well, I thought it was a
Yeah.
Riesling, so that
Yes.
shows my professionalism.
It's an Alsatian bottle, so the confusion is understandable. But it is Pinot Gris, right? And this is a wine that not a lot of people love to show off anymore. But we try to
It's-
make a serious Pinot Gris. It's 3
really
different
good.
vineyards. 2 of them are our own. The third is a really cool old school Pinot Gris vineyard out West Lynn way, so
Oh.
east of I-5, super
Interesting.
old vines. It's about 50-50 tank fermented and
Mm-hmm.
barrel fermented. There's even a little bit of new oak. This is 3.9% new French oak. So some richness, some spice, that kind of thing.
We hosted
So-
at a bunch of Master Soms recently, and several of them said they think it's the best Pinot Gris in
Damn.
America.
Wow, those
We'll
are
still
big
try
words.
to make it better next year.
Yeah.
I'm going to think about all the, things we could
Yeah.
have done better, but no, we love it. We take it seriously. We sell it at a serious price. It's still the dominant white grape in Oregon, right? I mean, we sort of forget about Pinot Gris. We always laugh. It's like, with all these things we do, like when we ask winemakers for wines, we'll get 100 Chardonnays and 10 Pinot Gris, but there's twice as much Pinot Gris being made as Chardonnay, so they're hiding their Pinot Gris somewhere, or maybe it's just being consolidated to just a few houses. But it's still a very big part of the Oregon story.
I think it's one of those grapes that kind of gets undercut, at least currently. Things go through trends, it seems, and Pinot Gris was kind of like the king white of Oregon, it seems like, for years, and now Chardonnay has kind of moved in, but it feels like Pinot Gris is kind of down there with Riesling. Like, people just don't really give it a whole lot of clout.
Yeah. Riesling used to be the most planted grape in Oregon in the 80s.
Yeah, and
Riesling was king, right?
I love Riesling, and a good Pinot Gris like that, so
Yeah.
good.
I
So
think
easy to
also,
drink.
I think we always think about potential, right? Think about the wines that move you, and again, kind of taking it back to the old world. But in the winemaking community, if you break out a bottle of really good white Burgundy, people are going to go nuts. If you break out a really good bottle of Alsatian Pinot Gris or something from Alto Adige, people would be like, "Oh, yeah, that's pretty good."
That's
I
it.
go nuts for the Alsatian stuff.
And it's good, yeah. But they're like Burgundies that will just absolutely move you. So maybe it's just the fact that from the winemaking perspective, we're chasing that high. Like we want our Chardonnays to like rattle us in the same way that like top white Burgundy does, and maybe in a way that maybe doesn't happen quite as much with Old World Pinot Gris. But I've had amazing Old World Pinot Gris, amazing like aged Old World Pinot Gris. I had a 30-year-old Alsatian Pinot Gris that just sang a few years back. It can be a serious white grape. It's just sort of overlooked.
Yep, agreed.
It was afterthought, and it seemed to always be planted on the marginal stuff where people like Pinot always gets like the best seat in the house, and then they fill the vineyards in kind of with.
With
Yeah, which
everything else.
with
hurts
everything
all
else.
those
Yeah.
other things,
Yeah.
right? It
Yeah.
hurt Chardonnay for years.
Are
you
these the
know?
disenfranchised whites I'm hearing about?
Yeah. Yeah, we're bringing them back home. So yeah, I mean, Mimi Castile said it a few years ago. It's like, if you want to make great Chardonnay, you got to plant it where you would plant your great Pinot Noir, right? So once you start taking Chardonnay seriously, then you start to get things like Ex Novo and Walter Scott, Lingua Franca, where they're planting Chardonnay in the best parts of their vineyard, or maybe that's the only thing they're planting in their vineyard.
The Chardonnays are incredible.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's just like
That is
that
one
land
that,
has a certain potential,
Yeah.
right? And if on the fringes of it, the potential falls off, and then you just put, so you put the Pinot in your high potential and your Pinot Gris in the low potential. Weird. You like the Pinot more than you like the Pinot Gris. So.
It's interesting to say that about Lingua Franca, because I've never had their wines, but when I was at the thing at Alexana a month or so ago, that was one wine that just like resonated with me. That was so good, was that Chardonnay that they were serving. And Chardonnay for me can be really amazing like that, but then you could get the ones that like kind of described it yesterday as like licking a rock. Like it's like super minerally, not a lot of flavor, high acid. Like it's just not enjoyable for my palate and me. But like that one from Lingua Franca was amazing.
I think that one is a good representation of the Eel Amity Chard character too.
Yeah.
It's got that cool hip production that kind of like always wants to be in those bottlings, and it's tasty.
Well, and Chardonnay is complicated too, because there's such a broad array of palates, and then it can be so manipulated by the winemaker. So the expressions of Chardonnay are pretty diverse. And the palates, I mean, we can go from the old school buttery, to the lean, flinty, and everything in between. And so, the palate of the winemaker is going to have a huge hand on that, because you really have that power as a winemaker to guide that in that direction. So if it works for you, it works. And if it doesn't, it really doesn't
That's
land.
the beauty of wine. And that was one of the first things I learned in that Linfield class was from Ben Castile. He's like, if you don't like that one, say it. It's okay if you don't like that one, because there will be one that you like, and you don't have to like them all. I'm like, oh, I thought I had to like them all. And really, I did think I had to like everything. And he's like, no. Actually, as a winemaker, I'd almost rather you not like them all and just really pick your favorites.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think especially if you're trying to make different Pinots, and part of what we do at Alexana, because we have this really unique vineyard that has so many different soil types, so many different clones, we are trying to make a lot of different Pinot Noirs. Those will speak to very different palates. So, you have to get over it sort of from an ego standpoint when somebody says, oh, I don't like that one. You're like, okay, well, we made it okay. It just seems like it doesn't fit your palate. And if they on the next one, they're like, oh, but I like that one. You're like, okay. So you like a particular style of Pinot that we can grow all those different styles just on our property, because we do have such a diverse spot, So yeah, like I said, I mean, if you liked everything, then it's like, are you really noticing the nuance? If I'm trying to give you a really broad spectrum of Pinot Noirs,
just work in the phrase immature palate somewhere in there. And
I just tell people like what you like, you know, because you'll get people. When I was working in the tasting room at White Rose, people would come in and we're selling them $125 bottles, and sometimes somebody would come over and just sort of whisper like, hey, I like this $10 bottle of wine. Is that okay? They're talking about some wine they found somewhere else. I'm like, oh my, is that okay? That's great. If you like a $10 bottle of wine and it brings you joy, go buy cases of that. Yeah. You're going to buy a case of that for every one bottle of my wine that you're going to buy. So you like what you like. Ultimately this is hedonism. This is just completely subjective. We all go on this journey ourselves. We find out what wines we like, and hopefully we get to drink a lot of the wines that we like, and then not be forced to perhaps drink wines that don't speak to us or don't make us sing.
You would hope so.
I would hope so. Life's too short.
I want to sing with the next one that Drew opened. So
I think,
what all did you bring?
I'm more of a top shelf guy these days. So,
let's finish with that one. Let's
finish with
first.
That one.
Yeah.
All right. So this here wine is Heritage Clones, Estate Pinot Noir. This is 2023. It's got a black label, which that's nice.
It's sexy
because it's black.
Yeah.
And here.
Oh, thank you, sir.
Yeah, no problem.
So we're showing you young wines today because again, we're excited to show off what we've been doing, right?
I know. Sorry, this is like totally like.
Good thing we have a deeply punted bottle though for that nice pour there.
Check out our punt. Kidding me?
This is young. Just got bottled in February, so we haven't even released this to our club members yet. But it's something we've never done before. It's a new label. People haven't seen this Heritage Clone. So the idea was like, let's take it back to the old school. Let's look at those initial clones, those suitcase clones that really founded Oregon. So this is a blend of Wadensville, Corey, and Latache. And
I don't know if I've even heard of those last two clones.
Corey is a big part of the Oregon story. A lot of people make the claim that Charles Corey was doing this slightly earlier than David Lett, but I think he was just a bad record keeper, right? That's the story
it gets pretty you start sounding like a hipster record collector if you get way too in, because it's like they're off by like 6 months or something like that.
So an early pioneer, David Hill was the site that he worked way back when. He had a nursery, so he was propagating his clone or clones or whatever it was to a bunch of people, and that was founding a lot of vineyards around here. I think we don't see it as much because it's very savory. It doesn't have the sort of pretty bright fruit that we see in a lot of wines these days. And so maybe
clone originally, right?
Yeah. And same in Latache is apparently Gary Andrus brought that from Latache, at least is the story that's out there. So
that's not the 828 clone because he brought that one in a suitcase too.
That's So 828's the Davis version of it. It's the same. It's the upright clone. And which has been a challenge for us. I don't know that there's a whole lot of 828 or Latache lovers in the valley.
We have a little bit planned. We have some new stuff coming online.
Yeah, but we've tried new things with it every year. We're trying to figure out how do we unlock this sort of mystery of this weird clone, and it is a weird.
The
clone.
story is great though with it.
It's a great story.
The story always helps. It seems like sell the wine and talk about it.
Yeah,
just because it is a little mysterious.
It's mysterious.
Yeah.
It's the only clone. Like you can drive by a vineyard, and if you see it, you're like, oh, that's 828 because it grows differently than our other clones.
It involves some piracy, which just like.
It was right up Drew's
cool.
alley.
Yeah,
yeah.
It can
He's
be.
feeling dangerous.
Yeah. So we're trying to unlock that grape, and one of the things we've done is a lot more whole cluster, and so the part of this that's 828 is 100% whole cluster ferment, like what we were doing at White Rose.
Yep.
Vadensville's just another one. You'd go to a nursery in the 70s and you could get Vadensville or Pomard, right? Those are foundational clones, and so this was sort of a challenge, honestly, from Jeff to come up with something really cool, just using those clones, looking in the cellar and trying to find something very different than the other Pinots that we make. So I think that this is really more about sort of the art of the blend, in the sense that we're trying to take these little pieces from only some parts of our vineyard now, because we restricted it by clone, and trying to make kind of an old school Pinot Noir. So that was sort of the goal with the heritage clones.
It doesn't suck. It's actually really nice.
No, again, we're sharing this. We would not normally share a wine that we just bottled a couple months ago, but these 23s are showy, bombastic's the word I've been using. And it was we had a pretty hot September.
That's a great word.
Things really
Bombastic.
things really ripened quickly. It was probably honestly one of the hardest harvests I've had, just because of how quickly we had to bring that fruit in and keep it in somewhat
like 10
in
days,
balance.
and we brought in 100 acres.
It was like
Wow.
we would do the most we'd ever harvested in a day, and then the next day we would either do that much or more, and that would set the record, and then we'd set the record the next day. And at some point my neck froze up, my head stopped working because my body broke down. So that was a hard harvest. Yeah.
Yeah, then we had to like smuggle you in muscle relaxers, through back channels.
But then I did go to the doctor, and I was diagnosed with cervicalgia, which is a medical term for pain in the neck. So,
Cervicalgia.
Yeah.
We should have a bottling called cervicalgia.
That actually, it sounds very serious.
It does.
Is
Very
this
scientific.
cervicalgia?
I will say, though, what I
Indeed.
learned was that if your neck stops working during harvest, go to your doctor, get muscle relaxers, drink one beer and take one muscle relaxer, and you will just melt into a puddle on your couch, and then eventually you'll be better.
It
That's
depends
not
on
an official
the
statement from
yeah.
Alexana.
No, I swear that's what my doctor told me to do.
we do wine and Xanax officially.
No, I did go to the doctor, and he's like, okay, so can you take time off of work and reduce your stress level? And I was like, I can't do either of those things. So what's my third option? So it was hard. I mean, getting injured during harvest.
Is there anybody you can call that
take
over for
you take like 2 weeks off? No. Yeah. So that was crazy. So 23 was a hard harvest. And then, we finally got to the finish line with these wines, and they're just like erupting out of the glass. They've just been like so expressive. And
It's probably a really nice prize for as hard as it was to see such lovely wines come out. And
yeah, and it's you're up and down on vintages too. And I think 23 was one of those ones that went down to barrel, and we're like, okay, this is showing well. And Pinot does this kind of up and down thing. You kind of love it sometimes. Other times you're like, oh, it seems a little off, And it definitely there were times where I thought like, oh man, maybe we did kind of miss the mark on 23. And so I was a little down on it, I think, going in the bottle. And then a couple months later, it was just like, oh, there it is.
Tress did some cool stuff in 23, like the Latoche specifically, because I think sometimes people just like have been working with a block for so long, or they end up getting house palate and they just decide to like write off a block as like, that's not a good block of fruit. And instead of just like deciding that, Tress just tried wildly different things in 23 to those blocks that were ho-hum before, and ended up making some of the best wines of the year off of those blocks.
Yeah, and I think that's what we're doing together is like, don't write pieces of your vineyard off. Yeah, I mean, we know that there are parts of our vineyard that are better than others, but don't write off. If you write off a part of your vineyard, then that stuff that you no longer can sell as bulk wine or no longer have an avenue for, it's something you have to bottle. And so why not try to make the best wine out of all those pieces?
Like if it was your children and you were like, yeah, that one's always sucked. Like,
I'm sure parents never do that.
Maybe it was your shepherding that could have been different.
Yeah. So shepherd wisely. But
Yeah,
I mean, it is
shepherd
like give it,
wisely.
so pick it at the right time. Don't just kind of like leave it to the end of harvest as like a cleanup project. Farm it the right way. Try new things farming. See if you can, so part of, what we found on some of our kind of what we would call our lower tier blocks is they were just getting too much heat, right? I mean, they were just frying down there. And so Drew, with his cover crops and no-till in those areas, is trying to cool down those vines. So, and honestly, what we found...
No mow, too. We just, let that shit get tall.
And it turns out that actually really
cool.
There's a lot more moisture. There's less reflection off of the
There was
the soil.
more moisture and cooler having things grow taller and not mowing.
Which sort of goes against what we,
so.
were learning 10, 15 years ago. It's like if you wanted to retain moisture, you tilled everything in, but you were actually kind of frying your vines in hot vintages. And so, those wines coming in 2024 are from the lower tiers because they were farmed better, because we got them in at the right time, and then we try to take them seriously from a winemaking perspective. They're better, which means that like the overall average in our cellar is better, right? So it's like you want to get your top wines to that top level, but you also, if you get your bottom wines raised up too, it's kind of the rising tide thing.
It's somewhat extended our pick window too, which has been nice. Not by maybe by 3 days.
But kind of 3 days can make a big difference.
Yeah,
but I wish I could have like a week.
But but that seems to be the main focus of our farming lately. Has been I feel like back in the day it was how do we get these vines warm enough to get them to ripen in Oregon? And so it was low to the ground trained heads, clean till, hot dirt, heat released at night. Let's get these bad boys warm, and we don't have a issue ripening fruit in the Willamette Valley. We can freaking ripen everything.
Yeah, I think
maybe not Nebbiolo.
I think what we're chasing is how do you put the brakes on, right? How do you slow down ripening? I mean, how do you make those more delicate Pinot Noirs?
Yeah, how do you farm to be... I mean, I was already a cool farmer, but now I'm focused on farming coolly, too. What do you think about that?
You're amazing. That's all I got to say. You're amazing. You are a one-stop shop for sure of all things puns.
Figuratively and literally.
Yes. So, I mean, your specialty has been the farming. What are you doing differently up there besides the cover crops and the non-mowing? I mean, you're doing things biodynamically?
Religion. Just kidding.
And Nazism.
And Nazism. I do like Rudolf Steiner's philosophy on schooling children, though. That's a big one. I'm okay with that one.
That's for another podcast.
No. Anyway, we'll move on from that. I just do so I studied zoology and botany and ecology, and a lot of it was ecosystem management, but also how things just work in nature. And I'm not so deluded to the fact that I think nature always has the best solution. Nature has the most efficient solution usually, but it's usually not going to meet up with our goals. Nature knows how to correct any soil to make it a very productive soil, but it might not be grapes that it's going to put there. It might be Himalayan blackberries, and so
nature's doing very well in that regard in the Willamette Valley.
Yeah, what we're trying to do is try to figure out and understand what natural systems already exist on the land, and then it kind of exploit those systems to our benefit. And then it's not super woo woo. We do take a lot of data. Sap analysis, or we have drones fly over and do infrared, and it's one step below LiDAR. It's poor man's LiDAR, but it's we get some cool stuff off of the drones, and we can make informed decisions, but we really stopped just doing blanket recipes on stuff. And then as far as fertilization goes, we've kind of changed conceptually about, we are no-till, but we're not we didn't just stop tilling. We planted a cover crop of 26 species that's native and some naturalized flowering plants and grasses, and we really kind of manage that for its own seed too. So we're not just going out there to mow, and I say this all the time, it's not a golf course, it's a meadow is the theory behind it. And so we let it flower, we let it go to seed, we let all of those plant exudates from all those different roots create mineral availability for the grapevines. And then the grapevines get to live in this bucolic meadow. That's the idea.
Which sometimes has sheep in it.
Which sometimes has sheep and has pigs, and sometimes I'm on the floor of it crying, and, you know, there's all sorts of...
Human tears are a great fertilizer.
Excellent soil lubricant.
If you ever want to see what actually goes on in the vineyard, you just need to follow Drew on Instagram, because you get the insights of his world on so many levels.
But so we're not... I wouldn't say that we're doing... anything like super, super novel. Pigs are somewhat novel that we're using pigs. They seem to have some efficacy keeping voles at bay, which everybody's always trying to figure out how to get rid of voles. But I will say that it's extremely anecdotal right now, and we are working with OSU to study it so that it gets like, so we can say, yes, this is good, or no, this is just cute.
They do light tilling of the vineyard.
They do.
You can tell where they've been.
I mean, they
it looks
go
like a
after
rototiller
voles,
went through there.
I mean, like you can, in our landscaping, you can tell where the dahlias used to be. So that's cool. But we're doing like, you know, that's the kind of stuff we're doing. Experimenting, making our own fertilizers, like biofertilizers, and just trying to figure out like how to do stuff with like less outside inputs, period. Like at the end of the day, it's like a huge monoculture that we're growing, and like how can we do the best to undo that simple fact? And I think that's why I'm really into the just broad species everywhere. We have pockets of oak savanna that we're restoring and replanting, and we even just tore out a block 29 Chardonnay that we're replanting oaks and redwoods in. Tress doesn't. I haven't told anybody yet. I was going to try to get it under the radar, but.
Well, and you know, that was a block of Chardonnay that was like.
Well, this was the place to keep under the radar for sure.
No, this was a good move, because this was the Chardonnay that was planted in the like, ooh, that's a really rough piece of
this
land.
Northeast facing Chiholpum soils.
Yeah, let's put Chardonnay there.
Chiholpum.
You know?
That's like cereal grain soils.
Oh, okay.
So it was the least compelling Chardonnay year after year after year. We did the best we'd ever done with it in 2024, but it still was the lowest tier. Yeah. So it was never going to make it out of the minor leagues.
And
so
we
it's
have
like,
a
why
new
struggle
Chardonnay
every
planting.
year? Yeah, exactly. And it's
awesome.
like, why keep pushing it? So, you know, you can ask the question, is it the right grape to be growing in that soil? Is it the right clone? Those things. But at some point, it just comes down to, is this even the right place to be growing grapes?
Yeah, should we be farming this? Period. Is a question people should be asking more and more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't hear that question asked very often. I think, you know, when you have land, you want to just, you know, fill it up as best as you can and pull the fruit off of it.
How do I maximize what I can extract?
Exactly.
Yeah. So what all wines are you making as far as like varietals?
Yeah, so just Pinot Noir, Chardonnay, Pinot Gris right now. We make a Rosé Pinot Noir as well. We make a lot of different Pinot Noirs just off of our own property. We have 8 different Pinots that we bottle. So we bottle what we consider our best block every year. So that's really just like what's the best of the best. You know, we have all these blocks of Pinot Noir, so we have quite a bit to choose from every year, and that block changes just depending on the vintage and sort of, you know, our winemaking. We do some whole cluster bottlings. We do this heritage clones. We have kind of a reserve Pinot we call Signature. It also has a fancy black label. We do a soil series, so we do sort of the top part of our vineyard, the volcanic soils, the middle part, the landslide, where all the soils have sort of been blended together, and then the bottom part, which is marine sedimentary soils. So you see that change in the character of the Pinot Noir as you move across the vineyard, because the top of our vineyard is in Jory soils, volcanic soils, and the soils, Willikenzie. They're 2 totally different, you know, different Pinot Noirs coming from the different parts of the vineyard.
I always thought that was just honestly a bunch of bullshit, that the dirt could change whatever. Firm believer. Like,
yeah,
now.
absolutely.
Like it's amazing when you taste wines side by side by side. Robert Britton is the one that blew my mind with that, not to keep bringing him up, but my husband was anti. He's like, there's no way. And Robert sat him down and he's like, nope, these are exactly whatever. And I'm like, this is insane.
I think the easiest way to get it across is that when you look at the grapes growing on those, like if we just take the 2 soil types, volcanic, marine, sedimentary, if you look at the grapes, they look different, right? So a cluster of grapes that comes out of marine sedimentary soils is going to be smaller grapes because essentially that wine or that grapevine has less access to water as the season develops. So you get these sort of smaller grapes, thicker skins. You now have a bigger skin to juice ratio, right? So there's more tannin, there's more color, there's kind of more density in those wines. And a volcanic soil,
it's also
more
completely different soil microbes.
Yeah, it's just but I think just at like very basic, it's like just look at the grapes from these soils; they're different. Look at how plump the clusters are from the volcanic soils, right? Plumper berries mean a lighter skin to juice ratio, which means a more delicate wine, paler color, all these things. So like, there's a way just to, I think, sort of be able to show soil and the morphology of the cluster that should hopefully explain it. But again, people would be like, well, it's still just Pinot Noir. I mean, how different can that be? But you see, I think if you just allow yourself to try those wines, you how could you miss that at that point?
Tress forgot some important footnotes. He also makes Riesling.
That's right.
And
we have new things coming online.
Yes.
So we've been predominantly just those 3 grapes. We are rehabbing our Riesling blocks. We'll have that online soon. We top crafted a block on our new property to Sauvignon Blanc last year, so that'll be in the cellar.
He's most excited
about we just weeks ago just top crafted to Cab Franc on a block. And I was like, really, Cab Franc?
It's gonna be sick. We're gonna have a Cab Franc from Argentina, Napa, and Oregon in a 3-pack.
So it's the only grape that all 3 of our properties will share. It's just like, I just feel like I'm already in 3rd place because it's like, I'm gonna have the youngest vines in the coolest region. Really, why don't we plant Pinot Noir at those other 2 properties and see how we do?
Franc,
Valley Floor, St. Helena,
Franc,
Pinot Noir,
Franc,
So the Franc will be in the cellar in a couple of years. So no, that's exciting, right? Because again, it's just like challenge yourself, and especially if the challenge is going to be, my God, we have to have the 3 wineries side by side. I better do all I can to show our best. But again, I feel like the odds are against me.
Go the opposite.
Right?
Like, we're never going to make those big ass Cab Francs that they can make. We should make the lightest.
We're going to make the palest, greenest, most Pierazzini Cab Franc they've ever seen. We're going to knock their socks off.
Like, instead of a ballerina, it'll be like a salsa dancer because of the Pierazzines, Yeah. That's a salsa joke. What do you think?
See, this is why I've asked him to be the heckler at the golf tournament that we have coming up, because he cannot help himself with.
That'd be good. I think that'd be good energy.
I think it'd be great.
Like a bullhorn.
We will for sure get kicked out of Michael
I never
Blood
get my
after this
head
year.
during golf, so that'll help. I mean, so that's going to make things really interesting. I think we're excited to show that off. It's going to take us a few years to really, to learn those vines and to sort of figure out how to farm them, how to make them.
It's cool that we're doing it piered. So the Sauvignon Blanc it was in a place that like just wasn't, it didn't want to be Pinot anyway. And it's like southwest aspect, really hot part of the vineyard that it was really devigorating to Pinot, and Sauvignon Blanc's big problem is that it's very vigorous, heavy cropper, and Doc has always wanted to do Sauv Blanc anyway, and it didn't make sense for us to do it on our 8 acres of Cab and
hold for
Napa.
just a second. Hold, please. We got food.
All right.
Oh my God! Don't stop recording.
Man, like the one day I eat a real lunch.
I know.
Whoa, it's on platters even.
Oh my God.
Around the corner to the right. Yeah.
Wow.
Sorry, everybody.
No, it's great.
Snacks are important.
Yeah, that looks wonderful.
Thank you.
Have we?
Some extra plates and some napkins.
Okay, are you going to bring those right now? Mm-hmm. Okay. I'll leave that open for a second.
Oh.
Your blush.
Have we shoved enough puns in there, or do we need more?
Oh, no, I think you're doing great.
Great.
Add as many as you want.
Yeah, so what should we do? Are we going to just do, how much more time do you need from us? Do you want
I
to?
just say let's finish up what we're talking here,
Okay.
and then we'll just go into the events and how to get to you guys, and then we'll be done.
We'll say that time goes by so fast. Have we been doing this for over an hour?
Over an hour.
Yeah. Wow.
Yep. Okay, thank you.
Did you take that picture?
No, one of my friends did. I don't have that talent. That is a Darren White original.
Darren.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I have no idea where we were.
We were talking about. We were talking. Yeah, we were talking about the Sauvignon Blanc. All right, so we put it in the super hot, devigorating part of the vineyard. We put in cuttings that we took from Croft vineyards, from Rain vineyards. Lumos down in near Corvallis, which is Di Crisp's home site, and then some cuttings from Lee Bartholomew's home vineyard. And it's crazy. I thought it was going to be super devigorating, but we grafted them. And these are only 3-year-old rootstock, right? Or 4-year-old rootstock.
Yeah.
And it built like a full canopy in 30 days.
Wow.
Which was just like incredible. So that'll be really cool. We named that the Angel Block after Angel or Angel Arias, who's like he does all the grafting on the West Coast of everybody's blocks, and he said that nobody has ever named anything after him, and I was like, well, Angel Block sounds pretty cool, so that's going to be our Angel Block Sauv Blanc.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
It'll be like $500 a bottle, probably.
That is definitely out of my budget.
It's not gonna be that. But we're trying. So we did a really cool comp tasting with. We brought in some of our local favorites, which was Anna Matzinger.
We had Durant. We had Dominio 4.
Yeah, Durant, Dominio 4. Yeah, we brought in a lot of local and international Sauv Blancs and did a comp tasting with all of our team and some of our friends and local winemakers and wine writers. We all just tasted them and were like, what are these wines like that we like? What are we gravitating toward? What do we want to make? And of course it was Dagenhau.
I mean, you just know. You just drink that wine, and you're like, oh yeah, there's something so different than everything else. It's just everything about this wine is perfect.
So we're going to try to make the best Sauvignon Blanc in the U.S.
You guys have so much going on. We could literally be here for hours.
We do have to drink one more wine, though, because we did bring a single vineyard from that new property. So where the Sauvignon Blanc is and where the Cab Franc will be is our newest property. It was planted, starting in 2019. We planted 3 blocks on the north edge of it. Most of it was planted in 2020. It's called Kinney Ranch Vineyard. It's actually off the northwest corner of Alexana, so it sits between us, Domaine Serene, 2 barns, and then John Thomas. His vineyard is on the north side. And we have absolutely been blown away by what we're getting just right out of the gate, right? You don't normally expect a whole lot out of vines that are 3 years old. More just like make juice, make wine, put it into your Willamette Valley blend, and one day it'll get better. Well, we know that vines need time, right, before they get there, before they produce elegance and that kind of thing.
It's cool right away.
It's cool right away. It's just something
It's on the very north toe slope of the Dundee, like the northernest part of the Dundee Hills.
Well, if you think about it, what we realize is those first 3 blocks that we planted are just giving us just this great wine. So we went with a single vineyard bottling of it in the very first year that we picked it. This is the second year in the 2023 we're about to open. Right over the fence from these grapes, practically like in row is Thomas, right? And that's the most expensive Pinot Noir you can get from the Willamette Valley. So if the best Pinot or the most sought after Pinot is being grown just feet away, it usually would sort of doesn't guarantee, but imply that there's probably quality in that soil.
Yeah. It's a really cool. The Kinney is a cool site, period, because it was originally owned and farmed by some dudes that came out with what's the mushroom restaurant in Dayton?
Joel Palmer House.
Yeah, they came out with
the dudes with the mushroom restaurant.
Sorry, Joel Palmer. So Joel Palmer, that family, they all rode out on a wagon with the guys that originally owned the ranch.
Yeah, and I was at Joel Palmer House a few weeks ago, and they had a buy the glass special on Thomas Pinot Noir, which I'd never seen before. It was $950 a glass. So,
nuh-uh.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
So if you want to try a glass, so we got 8 glasses.
Yeah, of course.
Not going to say no to that.
On the company card, because we're Alexana.
Yeah. So fancy.
But no, John Thomas is a wonderful person. He does it. It's a one-man show. He farms that. He makes the wine. And he has just done something really compelling. And he knows that spot of the Dundee Hills better than anyone. He's been there 40 years. And so, when I started, I reached out to him. I just wanted to learn more about what he thought about that patch of ground. And it was a fascinating conversation because nobody knows that place better than he does, right? So
I need to invite him on the podcast because maybe he'll bring a bottle.
Yeah, exactly. You're like,
I
we
don't
have a
have to pay.
5-bottle minimum for every podcast
Yes.
we do. Yeah.
Plus 5 for the host to take home. Yes.
Yeah, he probably. I could imagine he's I think he's a shy guy. So
So many of
but
you
he's
are.
also one of the most
It took
thoughtful
everything
farmers.
to get Drew here.
I think a
so-
good example is I started Alexana in 2022 in May, and it was just right after the frost, just a couple weeks after the frost, and looking at it an essentially dead vineyard and what we struggled through in 22, and then sort of what we learned about the way the vines recovered, and then again getting looking at your clusters, right? When those clusters came in 2022, they were the biggest clusters of Pinot Noir we'd ever had. And that the wines ended up being a little thin as a result, and so I found myself 6 months later thinking, like, I really should have saunied some of these tanks to build power. When I talked to John, I was like, how did your 22 go? He's like, oh, well, I remember the frost in 85. So as soon as that stuff came in, I just saunied every tank, 7 to 10%. It's like, okay, so it's just innate with you. I mean, it's just baked in. You just know these vintages so well. And I felt a lot of envy for that type of knowledge, right? The fact that he just so quickly knew exactly how to react to those grapes. I'm sure he made wonderful wine.
It's just
I'll
time.
just have to go drop
Time and
$950 at Joel Palmer House to find out.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about events. Let's pour this wine because Drew just pulled it out of the little magic bag over there.
Just poured it for myself.
Yeah, I know.
That was
It's
very kind of you. Yeah.
Selfish sucker.
And I passed it to the right-hand side, which is just
Well, I am hard to reach on,
I'll get you.
hard to
to
reach.
the left. You got to depend on trust for this.
Old reliable. So this is the 2023 Kinney Ranch, which is what we're drinking right now. Is this even released, or is this?
I don't know the answer to that, actually.
Yeah,
Yes,
we can
it's
get
released.
it to you.
Totally
if we're gonna
released.
pour it and
Yeah.
talk about it, and you want to order it, that's fine. We have a limited amount, though.
Yeah.
Not
So
to
again,
use
we're not
scarcity,
making.
but it's
we know
true,
the
there's
quality's
only a
there. The
little
quality's kind of really focused in that one part. A lot of the vineyard came online in 2023, so there's
That's
a lot
bright.
of just like first year grapes, in the cellar.
You say bright.
It's bright. Yeah.
It's
made by a
bright.
bright guy.
So this is 100% whole cluster. These are dry farm vines, right? We have no irrigation on this vineyard that's being established. We're forcing those vines to go in search of water. That works okay when it's raining a lot like it is right now, but in 2023 we finished really hot, right? So these vines definitely struggled a little bit late in the season. There was definitely some, we got some berry dimpling, some shrivel. So the concentration that we had in the wines from this property was nuts. So
We were
concentrated the
still
acid,
clean
concentrated
till
the
then,
color, concentrated the tannin. So we had some very Syrah-like Pinots, and so whole cluster was actually a tool that we had to sort of dial that back and lighten these wines. I say that looking at this, and it's still just like a powerful wine. I mean, it's darkly colored, the acid's really high, but the whole cluster was a great way to sort of naturally de-acidify it as well, because
And
the
add some
acids were so
structure,
concentrated.
because they were
Yeah.
pretty fruity tooty.
Yeah, exactly. Like
Young vines.
balance primary fruit. Those young vines can give you all this jammy primary fruit, right? But we wanted to sort of get a little balance, and so whole clusters worked really well for this part of the vineyard.
I love it. So much information, so many puns, so many jokes. It's been a great hour, boys. Yeah. So let's talk about events at Alexana, because you have a couple big ones coming up, and then where people can come find you.
Well, okay. Well, you can come find us by going to alexanawinery.com and booking reservation today.
We're on Warden Hill Road.
That was very Bob Barker. Yeah.
So we're on Warden Hill Road. If you're out of Dundee, take a left there near Lumpy's and head up the hill, and you'll pass Domaine Roy and Winderley and Knudsen, and you get over to the top of the hill, and then you go down the backside of the hill, and
you
you'll
start
finally
making it
get
to the good
Alexana.
places.
Then you get to Alexana. Yeah, and actually, it's fascinating, right? Because when Alexana's winery was built in 2012, we went over and visited. And that backside of the hill, it was a gravel road. There were no tasting rooms there until Alexana opened. There are multiple tasting rooms opening on the north side of the hill, or that have opened. So
I was a
Ambar
little
is there
surprised
now.
when I went over
Pot
there.
Cake. Van Duzer is putting in a tasting room next to us.
Ambar.
There's a sparkling wine project. So, it's totally changed. And I think Alexana should get a lot of credit for sort of proving that side of the hill.
North
has
side
worked
boys.
well. Yeah.
And girls.
And now the road's paved too, so because it used to be a really nasty gravel road, twisty, washboarded. Yeah. So we're on Warden Hill Road. right in the Dundee Hills, but in a really sort of unique part of the Dundee Hills with a beautiful view. We look west, so we look right at the coastal range, stunning view, beautiful place to taste either inside or
Yeah, not a lot of
outdoors.
people look at the coast range.
It's a weird, yeah, it's a strange one,
So
right?
it's cool.
Like, so we
Everyone
do
else
have,
is
I
looking
think,
at Hood.
I think whether they know it or not, I think people kind of react to the fact that what they're seeing is very different than what they see at other wineries. Maybe not knowing that it's because they're almost looking due west. You know, it can make those afternoons a little warm. Sometimes it gets a little warm on our deck in the afternoon on a summer day.
Oh, yeah.
But it's a totally different sort of perspective, which I think makes it pretty special.
Yeah, no, it's really beautiful up there.
Yeah.
Okay.
So events wise,
June 28th,
June 28th.
Corazon del Sol takeover.
So Corazon del Sol is our Argentina property. So when we do takeovers with the other properties, this is a
This is Lechon.
empanada lechon. Okay,
Yeah.
so
Jaco
usually we'll
from
do
Lechon.
like
If
so
you haven't
we'll be
eaten
doing-
there, you're stupid and missing out. Go to Portland. and eat.
Empanada lechon, what?
No, Lechon.
Yeah,
What is that?
Lechon. It's a restaurant in Portland, so
Oh,
he's going to
okay.
be doing Argentinian
So I'm
inspired
stupid.
cooking.
Yeah.
Yeah, never heard of it either.
So
If you
we've
haven't
done
eaten there, then yeah.
We've done events with them. They're amazing. And of course, those dishes go really well with the wines that we produce in Argentina. We were the first Argentina winery to produce a GSM. So we have Rhone varieties as well as Bordeaux varieties. So we get to show those off. That's actually a really cool part of the Alexana experience coming to visit us is that you can taste great Oregon Pinot Noirs, but you could also taste Napa Cab. You could have a GSM from Argentina.
So you
from
have
Malbec
all
as well.
three
We have all
properties
three
in the
wineries.
tasting room?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
we do.
that's great.
Yeah.
No, it's
Yeah.
super cool
Yeah.
because people, when they want to say stuff like, I don't like peanuts, you're like, well, here's the big old cab for you.
Yeah.
Now you have to buy it.
No, you have to buy it.
But you know, it's also it just means our parties are really good because we can drink Pinot all day, and then once everybody's ready for a change of pace, we break out the cab or we break out Malbec, or we have like a wonderful cab that we do down there. So cab
And
Sauv, Cab
we've been
Franc,
doing lots of
which is
parties.
cool. Yeah,
And they're like high end. We're trying to like ball out, have fun, but
we're
like
ballers.
we're ballers.
I mean, yeah.
Jet
That's the
setters.
first thing that I thought when I saw you
That
today.
guy's rich.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what you thought.
Total ballers. Yeah.
So we've got that.
It's the flannel shirts that
Yeah,
gave you away.
well, you can tell.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, flannel is a very expensive material.
$20 at
so,
Wilco,
yeah, I mean,
Japanese.
yeah. Columbia employee store.
Yeah.
You know, we're spending top dollar to look this good.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, so August 2nd is our 20th anniversary retrospective. This will be our 20th vintage coming up. And we're going to feature all three winemakers from Alexana's history. So Lynn Penner-Ash was our very first winemaker in 2006. She was there. We started the winery in 2012, so it was all being made at Penner-Ash for the first 6 years. The winery was built in 2012. Brian Weil came on board. Lynn spent a few years working with him, and then Brian Weil was the winemaker until I started in 22. I worked that harvest with him as well. So the three winemakers that Alexana has ever had will be at that dinner, and we'll actually pour wines from the last 20 years.
That's exciting.
Yeah,
it's
like
cool,
I
right?
need to come
who's
to
ever
that.
done that? Literally ever.
Yeah.
But I also think
I
it's
know, I
like
think
it's
it's
a funny
great.
thing. It's like you always think like, oh yeah, we are kind of the new kids on the block. Our 20-year-old winery, it's
Yeah.
sort of. We're pretty established at this point, right? And so to have that library and to have that cellar and that sort of ability to look back that far will be a lot of fun. So that'll be a fantastic party. And then a couple weeks after that, I think it's 16th and 17th, somewhere around there.
Yes. It's 14th and 15th. Hold on. Let me-
Whatever that weekend
Drew's
is.
got
2
the calendar
weekends
up,
after
15th
that.
and 16th.
There we go.
Don't ever second guess yourself.
So we, I do that all the time. A couple weeks later, we have what we call our harvest party, and that's always like our big kickoff pre-harvest. We actually do a harvest party at all of our wineries. Doc is present at all those harvest parties, so he'll be in town for that. And it's essentially just a really big celebration of Alexana, and just sort of a celebration of the season. Last year we did a movable feast, and so we did a progressive dinner where we started up on the crush pad. We had rosé and white wine. We had oysters and seafood up there. We did a little walk around the winery onto the fermentation level, and we presented Kinney Ranch actually, and sort of introduced our folks to Kinney Ranch for the first time. Poured them the 22 and a tank sample, the 23. And we had salad courses and just had a good time, just hanging out.
Sounds
then
fantastic.
We walked outside. The pigs came up and said hello. And
Perfectly timed, like at the sunset.
Yeah, it was
like the sun was
crazy.
setting.
Yeah,
it's like he timed it.
And the pigs just started
Trained
milling
them.
around. Everyone got a chance to pet the
Yeah.
pigs, and then we went out to our balcony, and we finished with a nice meat course. The full entrees, and that's usually where we'll break out things like the cabs and
It
that
was
sort
the
of thing.
same pigs. We just like sashimi them right there.
Yep. They went to a farm upstate.
It was cool.
Very quickly.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Poor
that's the
pigs
kind of
took
thing that we
their
do is that, we have a wonderful hospitality program, and we have really put a lot of focus into these kind of just really like serious events, like good food, good wine, good service. That's kind of that's a big part of this of hospitality, right? So
Full
feeling
list of
like
events
you're
is on the website.
Yeah. That's what we're told.
Yeah.
And it's up to date.
Yeah, it's up to date, like very up to date. Also, there's always things being added, but there's tickets available for most things, but not everything. So they do sell out, which is cool. But we have like my favorite one is our steakhouse, Ravana Steakhouse Takeover. It's cool.
Yeah, so that's
It's
cab
in the
night,
winter time.
right? It's in
so
the
we're
winter.
drinking
You're
Big Daddy
inside.
cabs.
Yeah.
And
I need to pay better
steaks.
attention to what everybody's doing because I miss so many cool events by just
But I think
glazing
that,
over.
but
there's
that's,
so
I
much
think it's
going
just
on
that
all the
there
time.
is so much going
Yeah.
on all the time, right? So it's like, how do you even get people to notice you? We're all shouting from the rooftops right
Yeah.
now, and we all need to because we all need people to buy our wines right now.
Everything's a hand sound
and I
this
think
night,
everyone's
right?
yelling just a little bit louder. I mean, that's why we're a little hoarse because we just spent all last week.
You're a big horse, buddy.
Thank you. Is there a rodeo role that I could do? Or do
Is
tall
that a
guys
compliment?
get to
I don't
do,
even know if that's a compliment.
But yeah, we were just at a bunch of events last week, pouring with other wineries, and everyone's drinking, and the volume level's going up, and you're yell talking, trying to talk about your wine
Yeah.
even more, and you come out of that, and you're like, I can barely talk right now. Right?
You were a little
So,
horse the other day.
I was a lot of yell talking last week, but all for a good cause. So it's you can get lost in the shuffle pretty easily, right? We're all trying. Whereas a lot more of us trying to take a piece of the pie these days.
So this is your hint right here. Go buy Alexana wine. Go hang out with the boys. They got a lot of cool stuff going on up there, and
Everybody gets a pig.
And everybody gets a pig. Sashimi on site, apparently.
We
yeah.
actually probably could send you home with a live pig if you wanted one.
Yeah.
Are they
Yeah.
coonies?
We have really, really like high detail level of concierge services. So.
I guess. Oh, good God. Okay. Well, thank you, boys.
You're very welcome.
for coming in. This has been kind of a long time coming because we actually talked
Yeah.
about this like 2 years ago when you both had moved over there.
Yeah.
I was actually surprised to see the pairing because I'm like, oh, this could be interesting.
It's been great,
Yeah.
and it's nuts because like 2 years just now it just goes by in the blink of an eye, right? And part of it, like we said, I mean, we're busy. We got a lot going on.
It felt like
so
one
it's,
really long week.
yeah. And that was 2 years. Right? Yeah. So, and then I can't believe it's been 6 years since we first talked. That seems just like
I
a
know.
completely different era. That was pre-COVID, different times.
That was literally right before the shutdown
Yeah.
because that season we did 4 episodes and I think you were like maybe number 2 or 3 and then we were done.
Wow.
Yep. So yeah, pretty crazy.
Yeah.
2020.
Well, now we have
Yep.
that 5G vaccine in us, so things
Oh,
have
yeah,
really
it's true.
changed. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're different people, literally,
Yeah.
than we were 6 years ago. So,
Crazy.
At least we have fentanyl, so that's good.
thank God for Fenty. Yeah.
Jesus. On that note, we are going to say thank you to everybody. Thank you, Tress and Drew, for coming in today and taking the time to hang out and be part of our little craziness here in the studio, in the living room here in McMinnville.
Thanks for keeping us honest.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, no kidding. Yeah. I had to call a few of them out a few times. I'm like, you guys suck at answering messages. Yes, please answer me back. Let's get this on the thing.
Badgering.
Badgering.
I think,
not usually my strong suit, but we got her. We got her done.
Persistence paid off.
Yes.
Yeah.
But a huge shout out to Ricky and crew over at Pura Vida because they stepped in last minute to bring us some snacks that look amazing that you all saw walk through here a few minutes ago
Yeah.
that we're watching live. John, of course, my audio guy extraordinaire. I could not do this without him. And
We call him Hot John.
I have never called him Hot John, but thank you. I'll make sure that Meg knows that's what you think of him.
She knows.
She knows. Anyhow, for all of you that are listening still to this point, please share this with all your winemaking
Support
friends,
people.
your wine loving friends, your wine drinking friends, whoever likes wine thinks about wine. This is a great show for them to maybe listen to. So
Thank you so much for having us. We really appreciate it.
I am so glad you came here, and then I'll leave you guys alone now.
Also, sorry, Mom,
a
for
while.
swearing earlier.
We did say
I probably should apologize to my mom too, because she gets mad at me for saying fuck on the air. So
And we don't use drugs like muscle relaxers or fentanyl.
Or
Yeah, we
fentanyl.
don't
We've just read about them in
don't do that.
magazines.
anyhow, peace out, everybody.